Alright, it's good to know that you are still there listening to Rock City 101.9 FM here in the city of Abeokuta. Yes, Citizens Forum this morning. Another test for INEC was conducted over the weekend in Anambra State. Okay, there will still be two more for him to go before the general election in 2019. That will be next year. Ekiti and Osun State will be coming next year. However, how can we rate INEC since Professor Yakub Mahmudu became the head, the chairman there? If you compare his performance or the commission's performance last weekend with the others who've been involved, how would you want to rate the commission? What will you be saying of his readiness for those other elections? Is it, if you check the signpost for general election 2019, will you say the sky is getting clearer and then radiating confidence to you, Nigerians? That's what we want to look at on the sittings for this morning. Dele, Ayodo this morning.
And I am Tobi Joseph. Just like Dele said, we'll be looking at a whole lot of parameters, a whole lot of indices to actually begin to assess that election, the performance of INEC, the conduct of security agencies that were deployed there, the NSCDC, the Nigerian Police Force, and of course the mobile police unit of the Nigerian Police Force also. There were soldiers that were also deployed and other paramilitary agencies that were involved in that election. And don't also forget that there were so many allegations of vote buying, so many allegations of deliberate delay in the distribution of election materials. Well, we will find out how true these are, and of course, how we can improve on the process. So the performance or the conduct of the voters themselves is also very key. Oftentimes, we look at the major players and forget that the voters themselves are key and major players. As a matter of fact, they are number one because without them, an election cannot hold. You can imagine if billions are already budgeted and, of course, deployed for an election to be conducted, and the people decide to stay at home. And what exactly was the conduct of the voters, and what was the turnout? That is also very key in assessing how far we have come and how much we have been able to improve on the process.
All right, yes, we have with us a journalist, correspondent, political reporter, Sulaiman Fasasi. Morning, welcome to Daybreak Show, Sulaiman.
Good morning.
All right, if it is football, Toby, you say these are the friendly matches.
Yes.
Yes,
to
getting you prepared for the main tournament,
Yes.
which is 2019, and of course that's where you know how, or you have an idea of which team and how that player will play. So that sounds like it. In the next 10 minutes, Lema, let's start by looking at the pre-election. Let's look at the campaign period. What do you want to say about the campaign, the politicians themselves and the people? Because usually this is also part of what will heighten or diffuse situation and prepare people for that election.
Well, I thank you, Dele. Well, you see, what we have in Anambra State, as far as the pre-election issue is concerned, is not quite different from what we do have when election is on like this in Nigeria. But for me, I was particularly happy about the conduct of the politicians during the pre-election period because, yes, I followed majorly the campaigns of the major players, the APC, the PDP, and the UPP, then APGA. And of course, for me, I think for the first time I realized that yes, we can't base our campaign on issues and not necessarily on personal attacks, name calling, hate speeches, and quite a number of that. Even when you look at the open debates that those people were subjected to, that a lot of people watch, will see that yes, at a time, at a point in time during the debate, the temper got high. But of course, you will see that yes, it was an issue-based campaign, and of course, for me, I think it's an improvement from what we do have in the past, where people will base their campaign on personal attacks, hate speeches, and quite a number of that. But for me, I think we can do better.
Now, Anambra is almost like Ogun State in the southwest. Anambra is almost like Ogun State in the southwest, where there's a concentration of so many big wigs, reputed national personnel. Alex Ekweme, Soludo, there's so many of them in Anambra State. One will also expect that these people will be able to influence the behavior of the politicians themselves and the people. Do you think they played any of such role?
Well, for me, unfortunately, most of these people you mentioned, they are key players in the election. When you talk about Soludo, and quite unfortunately, Kweme was not wasn't around. And when you look at the Ojukus, of course, they played very major role. And for me, Bianca was in one side, then the Ojuku Junior was some days to the election on another side. And personally, I believed the defection of Ojuku Junior might have played a very prominent role in uh, what later happened to APC in the election. Because for me, I was expecting really that APC will be coming far behind in that election, but coming to beat PDP to the second position. I believe that yes, the defection of Ojukwu Junior played a very major role. But again, we cannot also blind our eyes to the influence of the likes of President Muhammadu Buhari and so much of those APC governors, bigwigs who actually came to town to actually campaign for the their candidate of APC. But for me, I don't. I think big names don't do it again.
Yeah, big they don't do it again. But in Nigeria, you can't throw their influence away. We saw what Christine Gige was doing there during the election. Now, we also say APC at last they are making an inroad into the southeast from this showing. Is that an indication?
Well, I wouldn't conclude that way. It will be an illicit generalization if you are looking at that outcome of the APC performance in this election, and we look at and we conclude that yes, probably they are making inward into. I wouldn't conclude that way, but of course, I think we might need this performance in one or two more states before we can conclude to say that probably they are making inward into that. But I'm very sure that APC is actually planning very seriously to actually have inward into the southeast, because that place is going to determine a lot. It's going to be a determinant into what will happen in 2019 election, considering what is happening in Southwest now. I'm sure, and the visit of Mr. President recently, you see that it's just an attempt, in my own view, to actually have a way into what is known to be a very strong hold of the opposition.
Would you say that that was a strategic move by the president to test the waters ahead of 2019?
Well, we can't rule that out, and that is why a lot of people have concluded that yes, Mr. President is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Everybody belongs to him. he owns
All
the
the
power
constituents.
to go to any part of the country. But again, we cannot rule out political move in this instance towards 2019. For me, I think yes, it is the right of Mr. President to visit, in fact, constitutional right for people to feel a sense of a belonging, but definitely it will have an impact
All right,
into what will happen in 2019.
let's go to the election proper now. Before that election day, we saw here the threat of IPOB. Those saying vote and die and all those things, try to intimidate and ensure that people did not vote. But on the day of the election, all those fizzled out. Who will you give the credit to? Or is it that IPOB itself were just a smokescreen?
Well, you see, I will give the credit to all the stakeholders, all players in that election, particularly the politicians, because I remember the former governor of, the former minister of aviation, what's the name, this senator, uh, I've forgotten her name, coming out to say that if you are not voting, you are only allowing the federal government to declare a state of emergency. Because when you ask people not to come out and vote, what it means, and there can't be vacuum in any state. When you say
Okay,
people shouldn't,
Stella.
Stella Odua, thank you, Stella Odua. When you ask people not to come out and vote, what you are saying in essence is that the federal government should come and declare a state of emergency in that very particular area. Very serious campaign. You can also give it to Indigo social group or the Ohanese coming out to say that yes, we are not in support of this call to boycott that very particular election, and all of them, including the National Orientation Agency, I saw they also did a very wonderful job coming out to say that it is not in the interest of Anambra people for you people to stay at home when we should come out and decide who we want to come and govern us. But all in all, I think this campaign against IPOP threat actually played a very major role, because when you put it side by side with at the level of a compliance uh, in the recent past, when IPOB will say, please don't do this, don't come out, don't do this, and you'll see that it is almost 100% compliant. Not because necessarily people believe in that cause, but in fact for security reasons. A lot of people will even stay in there and say, well, it might lead to insecurity. But for me, well, I think what happened during the election is a very strong message to IPOB that, you see, we might have agitation, but whatever agitation we are putting forward must come within the ambit of the law. I think it was a very strong message for IPOB leaders to know that, yes, this is not the best way to agitate, to ask for things from the federal government.
All right, Sulaiman, let us quickly look at the pre-election brouhaha that the withdrawal of the security aids of Mr. Governor caused. That was seen in some quarters as a way of the federal government or the ruling party at the center trying to manipulate the process. Do you also believe in that school of thought?
Well, I know very strongly that uh, when elections are coming like this, security aids, especially the ADC of the governors, always withdrawn, probably a day to the election. But for me, in this instance of Anambra, I think our Inspector General of Police misfired. And even at the point, you will see the inconsistencies in the information coming from the Nigerian police. At times, at a time rather, the IGP said, yes, we are going to return your aid, your security aids after the election. But when that directive from Mr. President came, the man said, no, we didn't withdraw the security operative. We only asked him to come for some directives. For me, I think it was not a good move by an Inspector General of Police. It is a normal thing. It is a normal thing to actually call most of these governors to want to influence the result of the election at the election day. But withdrawing the security aids of a governor, a sitting governor, 3-4 days before the election, I think the Inspector General of Police misfired.
Okay, let us quickly look at the result once again. Uh, it was a landslide victory for Willie Obiano of Accra, and of course he won in the all the local governments, 17 to be precise. Now, Nwoye, the candidate of the APC, came second. The gap, of course, was wide between the first and the second, but like you said, that was not expected. People were thinking that maybe PDP was going to come in, or maybe Seta Chidoka, who is also relatively popular in Anambra, will come second. Now, does this mean that the Igbos, the Southeasterners, are beginning to accept the APC, which they have treated like a northern party for some time?
Well, for me, I would rather see the result of that election as acceptance of Hapga as the party of the Igbos. When you look at, yes, APC performed to their best, but of course, when you consider the gap, you will see that, yes, that result of the election was a demonstration of the Igbo people that this is our home, and anytime, any day, we stand by our home. Don't forget that when you look at the history of Anambra State, it has always been like this. The first time it was a PDP, and that was the minister of employment, and of course Chris Ngige. And of course, that result of the election was challenged before the tribunal. The tribunal nullified that election and declared Peter Obi of Abga the winner of that election. Yes, at the time, Peter Obi was also impeached. You will remember, and of course, he was reinstated again, and this governor the first time, and now the second time. I would rather see it as the acceptance of the Igbo people that this is our home, this is our home. And of course, yes, you as much as we might be a bit surprised as to the performance of APC defeating PDP, a lot of issues will have actually made that happen. For me, I still believe that PDP is not settled till now. And again, you have the the people like Chris Ngige, who, of course, is a very popular person among these people. You will remember, even within the short 3 years he spent as a governor, he was one of the best among the governors in Nigeria then. For me, yes, that of course will play a very major role in the results of the election. But most importantly is that winning into all the 21 local governments is a very strong statement, a very strong demonstration of the fact that this is our home. And I don't see APC, even in 2019, performing better than this. But of course, I know politicians, they have their own calculation. This will be a better result if you can get bulk vote from the north, and you can get this percentage from the
increase to add to the other.
I think it will be a very good
Okay, now still on the election. For a long time, we have not seen a post-election reaction that is, we could say, seemingly quiet like this one. Aside from the PDP candidate, well, others, though, with some statements, still accepted the result. Let's look at that with INEC's performance itself. Will you say that's a credible and fair election, and that's why they are accepting the result without putting up a fight?
Well, Dele, I think it will be too hasty to conclude that this election result has been accepted. Trust politicians, even when they know within themselves that yes, there is no way you can challenge this election at the tribunal and win. You trust politicians, they have the ways of doing their own things. There was a time in Ogun State. Yeah, I saw an election petition and I asked the petitioner that even I am not a lawyer, I can easily fault this petition. And the person was telling me this petition will keep the name of our party in the next 4 years. It will keep it on the pages of newspaper for people to hear that this party is still this party. I wouldn't be surprised anyway if tomorrow even Chidoka himself could be going to tribunal, but we have not heard anything from the APC man. He has kept quiet. The PDP man has actually rejected that election. But for me, in totality, I think this election is an improvement into the elections that this current chairman of INEC has conducted. Yes, we are beginning to
at least for the fact that there was no postponement, there was no inconclusiveness.
We are having conclusive elections now. For me, I think it's an improvement. Of course, a lot of Nigerians will expect more from INEC because when you look at a pedestrian where Atayoru Jega left that commission, we expect a lot of things from the current chairman. And of course, you can see that there is a bit of improvement and a lot of Nigerians will expect more. But majorly the issue that still bothers my mind is the distribution of electoral
That's what I want to say, because we still have serious complaints about distribution. Yeah. We had serious complaints about the card reader, which are this majorly will influence, and of course, for 4 years or 2 years of an election incubation period, you should be able to improve on that. If you are going to use speedboat, if you are going to use the bike, whatever terrain we have, you should have studied and known those terrain. What do you think is happening? Why we have not, INEC now, have not gotten this right?
Well, I think majorly we have leaders who are not creative, who at most of the times will fail to think out of the box. I think that is the major problem, and that is why I said it bothers my mind. If after several elections we have conducted since 1999, we'll still be here complaining about a late arrival of materials to the election venues. It is quite unfortunate. There are so many platforms I hope INEC can explore to make sure that this is addressed. Before Atayoru Jega left, I remember that he was talking about collaborating with most of these NURTW roads and quite a number of them, collaborating with them so that yes, of course.
What even stops us from using the helicopter, the choppers to deliver materials?
To deliver materials, and that is why I'm saying that yes, it is that yes, we have leaders that are not they are not creative, are not thinking out of the box, and quite unfortunate that at this point in time in the history of political history of Nigeria, we'll still be talking about late arrival of materials to election venues. I think that is unacceptable. Under any guise, it's unacceptable. We have so many platforms we can explore to make sure that that issue is actually corrected. But for me, I believe that this incident at times are deliberate. It are deliberate actions by politicians in collaboration with electoral umpires, because it is very difficult for me to believe that we'll still have such incidences at this point in time.
The card reader too.
Well, the card reader.
So many people criticized it from the beginning. It came and appeared to have standardized thing, but we have still not perfected it.
Because
it showed over the weekend.
Yeah, because somebody has actually dropped the ball. Because there has not been improvement in what was done at that very particular time. By now, one will have expected this umpire to actually step up their game in terms of performance of card readers. If we are conducting an election in a single state and we still have issues like this coming up, then what should then be our expectation when we are going to conduct a nationwide election in 2019? For me, I think it's a clarion call to INEC to step up their game and make sure that yes, they develop on that on this technology.
Now, Sulaiman, when are we going to tell the people, the electorates, to step up their game when politicians, party agents, polling units still pay them up to 5,000, 7,000, or even 10,000, sometimes 20,000 to buy their votes? That happened heavily in Ondo State, and of course, that has also been alleged to have happened in Anambra State.
Quite unfortunate that this is the bad side of the whole story we have in Anambra State. The money was heavily flowing everywhere. No party was excluded from the reports we got from those people who were on ground. Almost every political party actually bought votes from people. In fact, so many videos as they have went viral where you see people voting somewhere and there is a cubicle somewhere where people go to go and claim their money. I learned that the people collected as much as 6,000 naira. In fact, it is a very sad story. I witnessed it in Ogun State during the 2014 election around Ogun East when we were monitoring the election. And I was particularly bothered that this is happening, in fact, being monitored most of the places by security agencies.
They will be there, the security.
Yeah. In fact, you will see people, some printing in an enclosure, and they have a way of showing their ballot paper to some agents who are very close at there to be sure that yes, this person actually voted for a party. It is at that instance then you will be cleared to go and collect your money. Then people were collecting 2,000 naira in Ogun East. But unfortunately, again, we have it happening again in Ondo State, and now it's if there is only sad story about this whole election in Anambra State, as free and as fair people might want to see it, I think this monetization, buying a vote, I think is unacceptable. And unfortunately, I think we need to do more campaign for people to know that we are only selling our birthright. You see, a lot of people, a lot of voters will believe that, yes, probably this is the only thing you can get from them in 4 years. After getting to Abuja, after getting to office, you will not see them again. But for me, I think we need a lot of campaign from National Orientation Agency, even the Federal Ministry of Information, to begin to sensitize people on the dangers of monetization of election like this. People need to realize one fact, that you have no moral justification to challenge any elected official after you must have been paid for your ballot. People shouldn't forget that these people probably they will go to bank and so many other places to borrow this money to pay you, and immediately they get into office, what they do first is how to recoup their money and pay back to wherever they must have borrowed the money. It is quite unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate. But for me, I think we need to step up our game as electorate to make sure that yes, collecting money. How much is 2,000 naira? What will 2,000 naira do for us in 4 years? And unfortunately, the security operatives are not also doing their bidding in the whole of this process, because I know very strongly that according to the Electoral Act is an electoral misconduct.
Yeah, it's an inducement.
It's an inducement, it's an electoral misconduct. But you will even see security operatives everywhere watching most of these things happen and nothing is being done. I think we need to empower INEC the more. We need to empower the security operative the more. We need to include this.
How do you empower them when the situation is like an event between two willing people? The person who is willing, the person who is giving is willing to give, and the person receiving is willing to receive. So how can we monitor empower these people to do anything about it?
The fact that somebody,
because nobody between the two will be ready to cooperate with any intruder, so to say.
Well, the fact that somebody is willing to give and the other person is willing to receive doesn't authenticate the whole process. By
No,
the
I
law of
know,
the
but
Federal
it
Republic of
makes things
Nigeria,
difficult for anybody to stop it because the person who is giving will not testify or cooperate with any security data or any third party that I call intruder is an intruder in their business. And the person who is receiving too is not likely to be ready to cooperate with any investigation. You understand?
I think most of the times we don't even need somebody cooperating before we do our job as security agencies. The person that is giving is culpable. The other person that is even receiving is culpable. Most of the times, these things are not done in hidden places. They are done in the open places where people can even see that this is happening. But I'm sure that this has not been included in the brief given to most of the security agencies. All they are after is that, oh, this election is very peaceful. This election is acceptable. Nobody is nobody's disturbing the whole process of the election. I think we need to include it as part of the brief we give to security agencies, since it remains an electoral misconduct according to our laws in Nigeria. We need to empower the security operative. We need to include it in their brief so that they will know. People will know that you cannot even do it at a place where the security people will see you, unless you want to get arrested. Don't forget that about 2 or 3 people were arrested, even in Anambra State. Some of them were arrested. If we continue to arrest these people, we continue to prosecute people for these offenses, I think it will send a right signal to people that even if you are doing it, not in a manner that will appear to be an acceptable norm within the society, because that is exactly what happened in Anambra State.
Well, that is exactly, at least from statement and what we've seen. The man whose voice is louder on this issue, Osita Chijoka, the UPP candidate, and like I said earlier, Anambra State, like Ogun State, is a state that is filled with that's where the Ubas are, Chris, Andy, Ifeanyi, that's where they are. That's where the Anyokus are. That's where Chris came from. Stella Odwa. So many known people. And Anambra, of course, one of the oldest states in the southeast. If you have these people, array of VIPs, and then under their nose, this happened or this is happening, because I also understood that, of course, during the campaign, it was a similar thing till the voting day. So, how do you get all these people to fight themselves? These are powerful people, Sulaiman.
Quite unfortunately, these are politicians. No matter how big their names may sound, these are politicians, and what a politician think is about getting to power by every means. All of them are culpable. It is not only the governor. Even when you look at the statement by Chidoka, you will see that somehow is an indictment to himself.
Because from his statements, like he himself also participated, he only lost to a superior
one. What it means is that politicians can go to any length to make sure that they seize power. That is what they think about at every point in time. How to get into power, And I think most importantly, we need to be reorientated as electorates. Because at any point in time when you see people running after a politician, just make sure that it is not about any ideology. It is about the money people can get from that politician. It's quite unfortunate. We cannot develop as a nation if we continue to practice this monetization of a particular.
Let's think as Nigerians now, real Nigerians, Suleiman. You said so earlier, those who are collecting the money, it is based on the notion that this is the only thing I may gain or I will get in 4 years, which you can also say is correct. They may never have met the candidate and will never meet the candidate. Neither will they see any side of the candidate. So, realistically, really, I know by law and practice, I said it's wrong. But can you seriously convince these people who have already imbibed it that this is the only thing they will give me? Can you convince them to stop it and tell them that that is wrong?
Well, you see,
Or should you even?
in my own thinking, I think we need to strengthen our institutions, our democratic institution, if actually we must correct this notion of people expecting money from. Even as we are speaking, you see a lot of people saying that, yes, I'm not ready to go out and vote.
You know, there are some youth, I think students who clearly came out and said no money, no vote, official statement.
It's quite unfortunate, but I think if we strengthen our democratic institutions, it will go a long way in correcting these anomalies. One, by making these representatives answerable to people. A lot of people will vote them into power, and that is the last time you will see them. A lot of debates are going on, for example, in the National Assembly, in the houses of assembly. How many times have we seen the senator representing our different constituencies coming back to us to tell us that
where do we
go, how do we vote on this particular issue?
What should I say?
What should I say when I get there?
You
don't even see these representatives coming back to people to ask questions. And all they do is what they think and how they think it should go. But for me, I think it is important for most of us that are educated, that are enlightened to begin to challenge most of these representatives in houses of assembly, in houses of representatives, House of Representatives, in the Senate, and even our governors.
In the houses of assembly.
Yeah, even at times when you see them conducting a town hall meeting, when you witness a town hall meetings of this politician, you will see that it's just a charity. It's just
card-carrying
members. It is arranged. You will see
allies of representatives of
parties. Unfortunately, I think one way we can address this issue is to strengthen this institution. If we think a representative is not doing what the people think, we still have the power, and that is why I will even be one of the happiest persons if the recall process of Senator Dino Melaye will sail through. I am not saying that the Senator Dino Melaye is culpable or is guilty.
But let's see to
the end. Let's see to the end. We have believed. In fact, most of these senators what they believe is that yes, the process is too cumbersome. Nobody can get it. How do you get 50% signature? It has happened in Kogi State, and what it means is that it can happen in every other place. I'm not saying the man is guilty, but I will be happy if that will sail through, because it will send a very strong signal to most of these politicians that yes, we have the power on our terms to vote you in. We have the same power in our signatures to actually recall you. I think it is most important that we strengthen our institutions and we continue with campaigns all the time. Continue to sensitize people so that they will know that yes, we are not doing any good to the development of our nation. We are not doing anything good to the democracy of Nigeria if all we do is to continue to run after money. It is unfortunate. I listened to one aspirant some weeks ago challenging another aspirant that do you have the money to prosecute this election, and that is quite unfortunate. And this is the same person that a lot of people, including the elite, including the educated ones, will be running after. In fact, we are jeopardizing the future of this.
Quickly, within the 2 minutes that we have left for this segment, let me ask you, from this result, the PDP was the domineering party in the South. Is very strong. Maybe only Anambra. Of course, they ruled Anambra at the time that we mentioned. This result, what does it tell of the strength, cohesion, and the ability of PDP to be a formidable party once again?
Well, I have said it that yes, a lot of indices would be responsible for the outcome of, I mean, the performance of the PDP in Anambra, because I was expecting really that it's going to be a straight fight between Abga
And
and
PDP.
PDP. Now,
That's what it has always been before.
now the PDP is coming third. I think it shows once again that yes, the party needs to put itself together. A lot of factors. Yes, we have the party was coming from that shock for the first time of losing an election at the central, and of course the litigation that was later settled by the Supreme Court. But till today, that case for me has not been settled. When you look at Ogun State, in fact, generally in the southwest and even part of the north, you'll see that yes, the party still, even in Adamawa State, the party members are now beginning to cry out that yes, Atiku people have taken over the party in Adamawa and all of that. It shows that.
All right, we will have to take this break to allow the 10 o'clock news to come up. Don't worry. We will be back after the news. We still have with us correspondent political reporter Sulaiman Fasasi. We are looking at that Anambra election signpost to 2019 general elections. Stay with us. Yes, sir. We want to appreciate you for still being there, listening to Rock City 101.9 FM here in the city of Abeokuta. Citizens Road this morning. We are looking at that election held in Anambra State. Another test for INEC's chairman. Remember, following that landmark performance of the former INEC boss, Professor Atairu Jega, anyone who is coming in to that shoe has a lot to contend with as to how people will rate him and the expectation of Nigerians on his performance as the main electoral regulator. Yes, another one was held yesterday. We've heard the report, won by the incumbent governor and the member of the APGA, All Progressive Grand Alliance, a party that was formed by the late Dean leader of the Igbos, Ojumeku Ojukwu. All right, so they'll be given another 4 years. That will make it 16 straight years for Abga in Anambra State. That has remained their stronghold, really. They had another, say, Imo State. They lost that because Okorocha moved away from Abga to the APC. The APC, which was before now, was an alien in the southeast. Forget the performance of where Okocha actually got there from APGA, really. But one will say when you compare, when you look at the books, comparing what they've done in previous elections and to this one, will say they have made a better show in that election. What are the pointers of this towards 2019? I mentioned it earlier that there are two more friendlies for Yakub Mahmoud to go before 2019. Oshun Ekiti will come almost 60-90 days interval next year, 2018. And that will take us to 2019. It's early 2019, at least according to the calendar, February 2019. The general election will come up. So you can know that we have less than 14 months to the general election, and by political calendar, that is only 14 days away. We have with us a political reporter, journalist, Sulaiman Fasasi. We'll straight on open the telephone lines for you, the listeners. Let's get what you think, questions over what you've heard. Fasasi also described early for us to draw some conclusions. One, as to whether the politicians in Anambra will accept that result as it is. Don't look at what they are saying now. They may come up with another shocker or another story about the election. You see, Fasasi is also disappointed with the inability of INEC not to have moved forward in terms of distributing materials for the election, and of course the card reader, which was also a major complaint in this election. These are areas he thought INEC will have moved forward and then enhance our election. Vote for cash or cash for vote, whichever one you think is another one. And he believes more sensitization, education needed to be done, particularly with those of you who are involved in collecting that cash, thinking that is your own pay for the next 4 years. He says it's wrong. Stop it. Don't do it. Okay, so let's have your own thoughts, comments, and questions. 0809-868-7344 and 0909-146-96704, the telephone numbers.
Don't forget you can also reach us via the short code 32120 is the short code number. All you have to do is to type rock, leave a space, type your message, include your name, and send to 32120.
And you want to react to some of this comment? I don't think there is any question per se. But some of those comments you may want to react to.
Just a clarification on the comment of Dr. Nkom. I think nobody is actually contesting the fact that the person who has the grassroots won that election. In fact, I was particularly thrilled that most of the figures that the governor dished out during that campaign period. The man said, I have 180 projects in 180 communities. What it means actually is the fact that the man got to almost everywhere. People are actually feeling the impact of a governance. And you agree with me that people of Anambra have always been lucky in who becomes their governor. Even when Ngige was there, even within this short 3 years, it was one of the best performances among the governors at that time. Then Peter Obi. Peter Obi is a former governor today, probably one of the very few that doesn't have any scandal. Till today, the man is still moving freely in streets. You hardly see most of these former governors. Either they are in FCC nets or they have run away from the country. And again, we have Obiano, who is also doing his bid. I don't think there is any issue contention
whether the man who won deserves to win.
There's no contention at all. But for me, you see, Dr. Nkom must understand that everybody has its own role in an election. As a journalist, the role I have to play is to report whatever I've seen. And I'm very sure that Dr. Nkom will remember very well reports of those financial inducement that we witnessed during the 2015 election. The reports were in so many newspapers. We have done our own constitutional role as journalists. But importantly, just like I said again, that I'm worried that this will be happening and in most areas supervised by security operatives, and that's the area where we are talking about. And yes, if things are not perfect anywhere in the world, yes, where they are better than us is that you see improvements every now and then. When there is any issue, the issue is addressed at possible time so that it will not continue to occur. If by now, for me, it's still unacceptable. It's still unacceptable, and we shouldn't accept it, because it remains one of the ploys that most of these politicians deploy in connivance with the electoral officers to willingly left some areas that they believe probably most of the times are stronghold of opposition within that area. We have seen it in the past that electoral materials will not be supplied to those areas. We have seen it. It's a ploy, and that is why we must not accept it. We must not leave an opportunity either for politicians or even for the electoral officers to want to manipulate the election. Yeah, I think somebody also talked about making posts, the governorship, House of Assembly, House of Representatives, Senate less attractive. I think I cannot agree less. That we must make it very, very less attractive. And that is why I have always been an advocate of part-time legislature in Nigeria. Not only that, the salary scale to be at par with civil service. If you are coming to come and serve us as a senator, as an House of Rep member, House of the Senate, what is your certificate? Let us place them. At least these people will come to tell us every point in time that they want to come and serve us. If you want to come and serve us, no problem about that. Let's place it at par with this civil service
Some people have said
of salary
lower,
payment.
lower. If you are serving, it should be lower
Well,
than that of the civil service.
well, I will
So
not say lower.
that's why we will really know if you want to serve.
To serve the people. Place it at par with the civil service. Pay people based on the certificate they are holding, and of course, a lot of people who actually face their job and not necessarily eyeing a political office at all point in time, and of course, part time. House of Assembly. Look at these legislatures. We have 363, 60 something days in a year, and when you even look at how many days they do sit for the constitutional business, you see that yes, they are doing nothing except that we are paying them entitlements that most of them are not due for. And it's even disturbing when a senator in Nigeria is reportedly, or a Senate president is reportedly earning more than the president of the United States of America. Very, very disturbing. This is unacceptable. I agree totally.
All right, let's quickly check out the Twitter messages. Enela Bekwale tweeted this: the large turnout of the electorate shows people are actively involved in today's democracy in spite of the threat from IPOB. David Da Vinci tweeted this: I must commend the security agencies for the handling of the Anambra election. It could easily have snowballed into something else if the python had continued to dance. Benola Agwekule once again says INEC should use this election as a case study to prepare ahead of some of the issues and lapses that may arise in 2019 election. Alright, and then Agwekule tweeted that one. Let's quickly go to this short group of messages. This one says imperative solution to harrowing electoral malpractices is state-of-the-art electronic voting beyond mere card readers, especially in technological age. Cosmos from People's Center sent in that. IK from E4 says, I was one of the voters that cast the votes. Tony Nwoye could have won the election, but he ran on the wrong platform, which is not to the mind of Indigo. So the best thing for him to do is to defect now ahead of 2021, because it will be so difficult for APC to win any election in the land of the rising sun for now. The land of the rising sun, you meant. Abdul Shidikela says, Anambra election has come and gone. Where is IPOB that says it will not hold? PMB on top. Let them go to bed. That era of threat has gone. IK from E4 once again says, let's assume that APC won the election in Anambra State, not because they've captured the mind of the people, but because of the good and humble and gentle man called Tony Nwoye. But did you know that it pays PDP for APGA to win and APC to sit in that saddle, because it will make a way for them to win the state in 2019? As for me, APC has no room in the southeast. All right, those are the messages for now. Let's go back to the calls. Hello, good morning.
Of security, we need to give it to security again on this issue of Anambra, because there were a lot of apprehensions. Yes, particularly even from
by
me.
IPOB.
In fact, when that IPOB threat came out, I said, for goodness sake, these people are only going to allow the government at the federal level to find a way of manipulating the result of this election. Because when there was a threat of such nature, you expect government to be on top of this game, and what you have is over policing. We heard about the 26,000 police officers, not talking about NSDC and even the soldiers. There were a lot of apprehensions that, will these people really come and do the security issue, or it will be the old order? We can't forget very quickly what happened in River State, when even a serving commissioner became an emergency security man, and quite a number of that. But the rating generally, the performance from the security operative was very superb, and we have to give it to them. They are part of this success.
All right, let's take one or two more calls and wrap it up with Twitter messages. Hello, good morning.
Nigerians hold that opinion true, that the political parties will continue to dominate their states win election. Could this be said to be correct?
Well, that is not correct. I want to believe that we have instances. We have instances in Ekiti State where a certain governor was beaten, landslide. All the 16 local governments the sitting governor lost that election, and of course, even the last general election is a pointer to the fact that yes, that might not be the absolute truth. And again, on the issue of a
Even
voter
Osun State, the senatorial by-election.
the senatorial by-election, that's another pointer. But of course, the issue of a voters registration, again, I don't think that is correct. Yes, it will be within the purview of the state, but for me, I don't think I have seen anybody who has actually complained that he was denied registration, probably because he doesn't belong to the ruling party in that very particular state. Well, what we should tell people is to go out and register. Not only registration, we should make sure that we exercise our franchise anytime we have the opportunity of voting. Because when you compare even the total number of people that voted in Anambra compared with the total registration number of over 2 million, you'll see that it is not close to 20% of people who actually voted. This, of course, is also not in the best interest of any working democracy.
All right, let us wrap it up with these messages and tweets. Popola Sams once again says independent candidacy will throw up better candidates for our elections if passed by lawmakers. Kudos to INEC on Anambra. Yemi Da Vinci says, I don't see the Anambra election result as a stamp of popularity on APC. Rather, it's a signal of what will happen to PDP in 2019. PDP is quartered to death right now and is only waiting for an undertaker. And Ola Igbekule says, if any electorate still sells his or her vote, such fellow is an enemy of democracy and good governance in Nigeria. Wake up, Nigerians. Yemi Da Vinci once again, with a turnout of less than 25% of registered voters, so voter apathy is a serious question we need to ask ourselves in this country. At what time do we say an election winner is not fit for an office when less than 5% of voters have voted for someone? Some people in this country are in political offices with access to millions of public coffers, yet had about 2,000 votes at the ballot. Are they then truly the people's choice? Obiano has triumphed even as a political offense since his godfather went to the PDP. That he won every local government without overt intimidation of opponent is noteworthy. More orientation and campaign needed to be done against buying and selling of votes. I call on civil societies to do more on this. Eniola Igbekule tweeted all this. Your final submissions, Sulaiman Fasasi, while you react to this. One very cogent point raised by Eniola Igbekule was first about independent candidacy, throwing up better candidates, and of course the issue of low turnout of voters and voter party.
Well, for me, I don't think we are still serious as a nation about independent candidacy. I look at the amendments done recently by the National Assembly, and in one instance, you are giving the power to the party because a particular part of the Electoral Act was actually amended to actually address the Kogi issue. And what the amendment is saying is that if we have an instance of what happened in Kogi State, the party should be allowed to field another candidate within 2 weeks or they are about to inherit that vote. But I ask a question that in that same amendment you are putting independent candidacy. What happens if it is an independent candidacy who suffers Ayodo's faith? What happens? These are issues that the National Assembly is yet to resolve, even with the so much amendments that was done. Voter apathy, I have said it. Well, we need to do more campaign because just like somebody said, my own calculation was about 20%. Somebody is saying 25%, and when you even look at that, it is a big question. That is the person who actually won the election the people's choice. But of course, it's about numbers.
No, the truth is, the man who wins the election may not necessarily be the popular person. Like in US recently, you see, you can win the vote, the election, but not win the popular vote. I think this is a democracy. That is election. So people should not. And of course, for those who are talking about and figures, you can check. We've never had any elections in 1999 where we had 60% turnout.
Even 50.
We've never. So just check that.
It has always been around 20, 25 times.
40 has been the highest. So it's, you can check your record. So.
But we must continue to do more.
We have to
sensitize the people, and I think the political parties themselves must.
I think it's more of the political parties. They should check why and what. Yes, makes people to stay at home. And people will say, like this money for vote thing is purely performance. If you performed well, if people have confidence and trust in the person, in the party, they will do everything legal to ensure that that party wins there. So everybody will come out. I think that is the bottom line for it. We want to thank you, Sulaiman Fasasi, for joining us on the program this morning, and of course all of you who participated through the different platforms open up for you. We say thank you. Tomorrow we'll be back with a fresh edition on the Citizens Forum Daybreak Show. Dele Ayodo is my name. I say God bless you all. God bless Rock City and God bless Nigeria.
I am Tobi Joseph. We want to appreciate everyone for joining us. Tomorrow is another day. Thank you once again.
It's a pleasure. God bless Nigeria.
Have a wonderful day.